you're watching me on YouTube, you can see me. If you're listening to me on all audio platforms, Podbean, Spotify, all Apple, all those platforms on audio, you can imagine me and what I'm wearing right now, audio-wise. And YouTube, you're already seeing it. I'm wearing a Christmas sweater and I'm wearing a Santa Claus hat. Why? Because number one, it's our last episode before Christmas. And we're not doing any episodes next week or until January 2nd. This is the last episode of Pigskin Frenzy until January 2nd, the last episode of the 2024 year. 2025 is when we will be having a podcast-type show episode and a show episode again. We're going to keep all things up to date on socials, by the way. I've already said that. This is the final show until then. Number two is Christmas, and we should celebrate it here on Pigskin Frenzy, right? Doesn't matter what I'm wearing. And guys, here's the deal. If you think I look ridiculous, sue me. Actually, please don't sue me because I don't want that on my record. So don't do that. But I may look ridiculous, and I may look ridiculous, but you got to get into the Christmas spirit, right? And plus, you're going to think, I can't take this guy seriously talking about football, wearing all this jazz. Well, guess what? You're about to. Because we're going to get serious about football today. Just because I'm rocking some Christmas attire, Santa hat, and everything else, we're going to get very serious up in this piece about NFL football today. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others. Follow on there as well. X and Instagram, type in Pigskin Frenzy, at Pigskin_Frenzy also. Like each episode, like each page. We're going to post news and highlights across college and NFL football. If you're following, subscribe on there. We're going to cover news and highlights across college and NFL football. There's trivia questions on Instagram stories, going into today's NFL question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Follow, like each post, and like the pages there. Website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you'll find all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. You're going to get news and highlights also. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get home and about me page. Learn more about me as your podcast host. There's a contact info. Joel, you can type in your name, email, question like, why are you wearing all this stuff on Pigskin Frenzy? You got to be more serious, but you also got to have fun on this show every once in a while. Getting too deep into that. But home and about me page there, contact info down below. You can also do platforms page. You can also do for all the platforms, you can listen to it on your favorite listening style there. You can also do the store and affiliations page, which are coming soon on the website, pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. All things to date coming soon for Pigskin Frenzy on the website. NFL day today. We're ready to rock and roll. Final episode of 2024. We're going to be back on January 2nd, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, right after New Year's Day. Going to be an epic, Pigskin Frenzy. And we're going to keep up to date with all things on platforms for NFL and college, including the college ball playoff games. We're going to keep up to date with everything. So don't forget to follow and subscribe on Pigskin Frenzies on X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy, because we're going to keep up to date with everything. This week is interesting. There's a Saturday game. We're also covering the college ball playoff. So that's going to be interesting. So technically I'm covering 5 games Saturday. I'm covering 5 instead of 4, but 4 college, three. I'm actually covering 4, 3 college and 1 NFL. So 4 games I'm still covering on Saturday, but it's 1 NFL, and I'm covering 4 games this weekend, including 1 NFL game. And, well, I'm covering a lot more than that, but you already get the gist of it. NFL day today, we're going to rock and roll with this Week 15 recap because it was electrifying. You can see how goofy I am, maybe, but at the same time, you're going to think it's even more goofy now that I went 1-3 in my picks. So I went 1-3 in my NFL picks. And that was quite interesting. I didn't think I was going to go 1-3, especially on these picks, but I did 1-3. And we're going to talk about those and recap the top matchups for Week 15. Preview and predict the top matchups for Week 16. We're also going to cover who's in and who's out this week with injuries for the NFL injury report. And we're going to get rocking and rolling here in just a little bit. Let's talk about Week 15 recap, and let's bring it all together here. Week 15 recap, starting with the Texans and the Dolphins, the only game that I got right. I said the Texans were going to win this ball game. They're going to win outright. And guess what? They did. Final score of this ball game was Texans 20, Dolphins 12. I didn't like the Dolphins in this game. I really didn't. I thought this was a bad spot for them. I thought that this game was going to be kind of a challenge for them, especially on the rest of their schedule. I think the rest of their schedule's quite favorable, and we're going to get into the Dolphins a little bit because we're covering the Dolphins this weekend again. Texans 20, Dolphins 12. Texans get the win. And let me go and tell you something about C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud played well, 18 for 26, 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played really good. He didn't play like the best of his ability, but he played crisp enough to get him the win. Bonwell, 135-yard run. Joe Mixon, 23 yards, 12 carries. You also got Tank Dell, and Tank Dell ended up getting 15-yard rush. The passing game was more effective than anything. Nico Collins, 17 yards, 4 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. Tank Dell had 26 yards, 2 receptions. Joe Mixon had 33 yards and 5 receptions. Dalton Schultz had 13 yards, 2 receptions. So it was kind of different. It was that and mainly the defense. The defensive performance in this game was tremendous. They were physical. If you look at Kamari Lassiter, he had 6 total tackles. Henry To'o had 11 total tackles. Jimmy Ward had 9 total tackles. Christian Harris had 8 total tackles. Kalen Bullock had 6 total tackles and a pick. And there was also Derek Stingley Jr., who had 5 total tackles and 2 interceptions, including a game-sealing interception. He was a madman in the secondary. This Texans defense was all over this Dolphins offense, and they played really, really physical. So the defense was the main vocal point and the main positive circle moment for this team in this ball game. The offense did good, but I didn't think it was mainly the defensive performance in this ball game. If you want to look at the total yards, besides the running attack, Dolphins outgained them in pretty much everything. Total yards, 224 for Miami compared to the Houston's 181. Passing, 172 compared to Texans' 104. Rushing yards, 52 yards for rushing for the Dolphins and 77 for the Texans. And they tied with 3.6 yards per play for each. So it's pretty even, but the Dolphins won in some areas. You would think the Dolphins would have won the game that way, but that's not how it's always determined, ladies and gentlemen. The defense played lights out in this game. That was the positive circle moment for this team, including third down efficiency. 5 for 13 on third downs. They capitalized on those third downs, and you kept the drives going in that game. I think those are some positive circle moments there. I think running the ball is a negative circle moment for this Texans team. I think they could have ran the ball a lot better than they did, even though Miami's rushing defense has proven to be something of a threat. But I think that the Texans could have ran the ball a lot better with the backs that they got now. I think that the penalties were pretty abysmal. 7 penalties for 70 yards. They got to clean that up, especially for Saturday coming up. This coming up Saturday on NBC. So they got to get that cleaned up at 1 Eastern, noon Central as they travel to Arrowhead. But the team in general looked good on defense. The turnovers were just too bad for the Dolphins to overcome, and the defense found a way to win this ball game for them this past Saturday. So I really like where their defense is at. Do I think right now, by watching the Texans this season, do I think they're a Super Bowl team? I do not. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team in a lot of areas. I think critical errors like the penalties. I think if they can't run the ball effectively to the max, like they haven't been. I think that their passing game's good. I think their defense is good enough. I think there are teams that are out there that are a little bit more physical than they are, and I think that's the issue. I think if they can just be a little bit better on those ends, they can contend, but I think there's a bunch of other teams that are better than the Texans right now in the AFC that's going to take a leap over them in my book. Are the Texans a playoff team? I think Houston is a playoff team. They clinched the AFC South already, so they're pretty much all guaranteed a playoff spot at this point. The Texans are. They clinched the AFC South. They're going to be in the AFC playoffs, but I do not think they're going to win the whole thing. That's my deal. I do not favor them over most currently right now in this point of time. That is not me hating on the Texans. I just think that they got to fix some things. That's just me. They have a game against the Chiefs Saturday. No, we're not covering the game, but they have a Chiefs and Arrowhead date Saturday, 1 Eastern, noon Central, this Saturday edition, because there's 2 NFL games on. We're not covering it, but I'm seeing how the Texans are going to do in this game. They got to prove a lot to me in this game to where they can compete at the highest level in the AFC playoffs coming up in the next 3 weeks. So final score of this game was 20 to 12. Texans get the win over the Dolphins at home. Let's talk about the Dolphins really quick before we go to the other 3 ball games. The Dolphins in this one struggled, and they struggled in turnovers and in critical errors they did not need to struggle in. Running the ball was a key issue too. They cannot run the ball to save their life for some reason, and they last year didn't have a problem running the football. They ran the football quite well last year. So I think that is one of those things right now that it's been an issue this season. I think passing's been good, but I think if you're one-dimensional in the pass, it's not going to work out in the long term in ball games. Their defense kept them in some areas, but in the end, the turnovers were just too much to overcome in this one. 4 turnovers, a fumble and 3 interceptions. 4 turnovers versus Houston. To ice this game, that is rough. It's going to be hard to win a game when you're committing 4+ turnovers in the game, right? It's going to be hard to win a ball game. So they also had 8 penalties for 64 yards. They were also 4 for 13 on 3rd down. So this was not a winnable game for the Dolphins. I did not like the spot they were in to begin with, but the stats they put up in this game were really abysmal, and it was to the point where, I was kind of right about this game. They weren't ready to play this game at all. But it's okay, because they can rebound and they still got time. They still got a few weeks. They still got this week, next week, and in week 18. They have this week and 2 more weeks after that to prove that they are an AFC playoff team. So they got time. It's just going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. So let's talk about some of the positive circle moments, though. Positive circle moments. The throwing game was decent. 196 yards, 1 touchdown for Tua. Washington had 52 yards, 5 receptions. Jonnu Smith had 48 yards, 9 receptions, and a touchdown. And there were some positive circle moments there. I think the defense played physical. They got a couple of sacks on C.J. Stroud. So if you want to talk about sacks allowed, they got to C.J. Stroud 4 times. 4 times. So they sacked him 4 times. That's good. They got to the quarterback 4 times. And if they got to him and pressured him a little bit, that was good. And I think some of the physicality on defense, and they are showing that they got some life, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I like that. And I think that can come a long way in the next few weeks here before the playoffs start. So if they can keep that up on defense and find a way to protect the ball, to run the football, have a balanced offensive attack that's not one-dimensional, then everything should be okay. And everything for the Dolphins could go the way I think it could go. So final score of this game, 20-12. We know who the Texans got. The Dolphins have the 49ers Sunday at home. 49ers at Dolphins, 4:25 Eastern, 3:25 Central in Miami this Sunday afternoon. We are covering that football game this Sunday afternoon. That is the last game we are covering for the NFL weekend. And let me go on and tell you something. This is a fight for both teams, and we're going to get into that here a little bit later in the show, but it's a fight for both teams. Texans at Dolphins, 20-12. Texans get the win. Let's talk about all the games that I got wrong, shall we? Because that was pretty rough, right? 3 games got wrong. Let's start off with a quicker one. Bucks and Chargers. Buccaneers at Chargers. I thought this was going to be a good spot for the Chargers to bounce back. I think it was a home game for them. This could be a bounce back game for them. But Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ever since getting on that losing streak, have ever since losing to the Chiefs too, have gotten kind of, you know what? We lost to the Falcons. We lost to the Chiefs. We lost to the Ravens. We're not going to keep losing. We're going to get on the rise and bounce back. And then the Falcons dipped. And the Falcons lost. And then the Buccaneers won and won. And now the Buccaneers are back in the 4th seed for the NFC South Division and could clinch the NFC South Division title. Another NFC South Division title here shortly. Final score, 40-17 in this ball game because they ran roughshod on offense in this ball game. 40-17. Buccaneers 40, Chargers 17. The Chargers got blown out of the water and they did not see it coming. I didn't see it coming. Who knew? 40-17. Baker Mayfield went off in this ball game. 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, 22 for 27. He had 25 yards and 2 carries on the ground, and he had only 1 pick, and that was his only blemish. He played lights out in this ball game. He gashed through the Chargers defense, Jesse Minter's defense in this ball game. It's making me not want to pick against the Bucs right now because the Bucs are starting to reach their ceiling late. If their offense keeps playing the way they're playing now, they can make a deep playoff run. I'm not joking. Bucky Irving, 117 yards, 15 carries on the ground, 7.8 yards per rush. Rashad White, 64 yards, 15 carries. They have another back by the name of Sean Tucker, 17 yards, 7 carries. They have a 3-headed dragon at running back. They got Mike Evans back at receiver. They got Baker Mayfield at quarterback. This team can do good when protecting Baker Mayfield also. They also have solid receivers like Jalen McMillan, Kay Otten. I mean, look, Mike Evans had 159 yards, 9 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans broke out this game. He was probably one of the best vocal points in this ball game. McMillan had a touchdown with 75 yards, 5 receptions. The rookie out of Washington. Rashad White, a touchdown, a receiving touchdown, 17 yards, 2 receptions. Kay Otten, 24 yards, 2 receptions. This defense was all over the field. A turnover, an interception by Jamel Dean. You also had you had Levante David with a half of a sack, and you had 12 total tackles by him. Tyron had 5 total tackles. McCullum had 4. You look at the defense, they played lights out. They got to Justin Herbert. They turned the ball over, and they looked good just doing it. They destroyed the Chargers. Every facet of the game, special teams, offense, and defense, destroyed the Chargers. On the road, they went into their house and did it. So they destroyed them in that way. Positive circle moments. There's only literally 2 blemishes for this Buccaneers team. Other than that, that's about it. Let's look at the total yards. 506 compared to 206. They beat them total yards wise by 300 yards in this ball game. Buccaneers 283 passing compared to the Chargers 174. Rushing 223 compared to 32 rushing yards. I circled that. Positive circle moment there. 223 total rushing yards compared to their 32 rushing yards. The Bucs 7.6 yards per play compared to their 4.3 yards per play. That's insane. That's insane. They rocked it. They rocked it, and they did good. The Broncos. I keep saying the Broncos because we're talking about the Broncos later. The Bucs did well. 9 for 15 on third down, 100% on fourth down efficiency. They got to Justin Herbert 3 times. They only allowed 1 sack. They protected Baker quite well. They had time of possession, 36 minutes compared to their 23 minutes. The only thing that I could say, 2 things that I could say wrong about this Buccaneers team this Sunday was 8 penalties for 83 yards. That was rough. Minimize those penalties. And then 2 turnovers. That was it. Protect the ball and minimize the penalties. Don't shoot yourselves in the foot. Other than that, they have the offense and the defense right now to make a deep playoff run if they wanted to. The Bucs could be a surprise team in the NFC playoffs, and you got to watch out for them. You have to watch out for them. Baker Mayfield is serious, and this offense is serious, and this coaching staff and this team is serious right now. After losing, it was a wake-up call. They're 8-6. They're 8-6, could win 10 games, could win the NFC South again this week and next week, and could honestly make a deeper playoff run than anybody could really realize. Buccaneers this Sunday have the Cowboys, Sunday Night Football, 8:20 Eastern, 7:20 Central. Bucs at Cowboys on Sunday Night Football on NBC. We're not covering the game, but this could be a good win for the Bucs in Dallas. Final score, 40-17 in this ball game. Let's talk about the Chargers really quick, and then we'll go to the other 2 games. The Chargers in this one looked honestly lost. They looked like they were struggling a lot. Let's talk about Justin Herbert, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was 21 for 33. Heineke had a 4-yard pass, 1-for-1 passing. Herbert came back into the game. Gus Edwards, 8 carries, 23 yards. Vidal, 3 carries, 9 yards. Ladd McConkey had a touchdown, 58 yards, 5 receptions. And Quentin Johnston had 45 yards, 5 receptions, and a touchdown. That's really about it. They threw the ball well, and they played some defense well. They got to him once. They got 1 turnover out of it. Madden, Dye, and Fulton, they played really, really well. Still got the interception. They sacked him, and they got to Baker Mayfield, and they did really well on defensive line. But other than that, Baker Mayfield found a way to thread the needle and gash the defense in this ball game. So they did some things well. They were physical on defense. That's a positive circle moment you can take away from it. And Justin Herbert and his mentality, he kept fighting in the game. So those are some positive circle moments you can take away for the Chargers in this ball game. Let's talk about the negative circle moments, though, because there's a lot. 7 penalties for 60 yards is pretty rough. They shot themselves in the foot in a lot of areas, which they didn't really need to. I think, but due to the penalties, if the penalties weren't 7 penalties for 60 yards, this game could have been a lot closer, I think, and they could have capitalized a lot more. But 4.3 yards per play, 32 rushing yards, 174 passing, total yards were 206. 0% on third down and 0% on fourth down. They were 0 for 6 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth, and they had 2 turnovers. You're not going to win a game with stats like that. And you're not going to win a game if you can't run the football. You got to be one-dimensional. If you look, and I want to compare it to this, if you watch college football and you watch my college episodes, I talk about LSU trying to run the football. And they can run the football because they got the backs. They just don't do it. And their rushing yards are super low, like real super low this past season. So my point of that is the reason why they lost, they've only lost 4 games. They're 8-4. The reason why they lost 4 of those games is because they did not run the football to the best of their ability. So, yeah, and they only passed. So they're trying to run the ball. There's a difference with this, though. They're trying to run the ball in L.A., and for the Chargers, they're trying to run the ball. They just may not have the necessary backs to do it. I think they kind of give up on the run too easy. Also, I think it's both. I think they can run the ball, and they give up on it too easy, but I also think they don't have the necessary backs to do it. I think they need a running back. I think Gus Edwards is good. I think they need an outstanding running back. J.K. Dobbins is a solid running back, and he has been doing really, really good for him ever since he got hurt with his knee injury. I think they need another running back behind Justin Herbert that can help balance out that offense and get the ball moving on the ground and have a balanced offensive attack for Jim Harbaugh's system. I think they need another running back. I think running the football is a huge issue for LA right now. I think they got everything else there. Do I think the Chargers are going to be a team where they're going to win the whole AFC playoffs? No, I don't. I think they're on the right track, and I think they could bring some competition next year, but they need more pieces. I think a running back would be a necessity need in the draft this season, for sure, hands down. I don't know. I know one, obviously, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. But if you look at other running backs in the draft class, you can look at those and see who you can pick up and who is good for your scheme, or you can see who's in the free agency market for a running back and sign a back. But I think running the ball is a huge need for this team for the rest of this year in the playoffs and beyond. So who do the Chargers have next? The Chargers got the Broncos tonight, and we are covering that game. Broncos at Chargers, home game, 8:15 Eastern, 7:15 Central on Amazon Prime. If you with Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit on the call. If you do not have a Prime account, an Amazon Prime account, make one and subscribe. If you do, tune into the game tonight on Amazon Prime. Thursday night football, Broncos at Chargers. We're covering that game. First game for the Broncos this year that we are covering. So it's going to be an interesting contest there. Final score, 40-17. Buccaneers defeat the Chargers. Buccaneers have the Cowboys Sunday. Chargers have the Broncos tonight. Let's see what happens in those games. 2 more games, and then we're going to move on. Let's go with the Steelers and the Eagles. Steelers and Eagles. Game that I got wrong. I said the Steelers were going to come out and win the game outright because of their defense being a factor. I took a challenge to the Eagles here, and I said the passing game needs to be a lot better. Well, guess what? Along with the other media, too, because other media said that, too. They answered the call. The Eagles threw the ball well, and they won the ball game. They had a balanced offense. Final score, Eagles 27, Steelers 13. This is a sign that I probably need to quit picking against the Eagles. And I've not learned. I haven't learned my lesson yet. Now I have learned my lesson. So, and you're going to figure that out here in a little bit when we do the Eagles and Commanders rematch later for the preview and predictions for the cut games that we are covering this week. Eagles 27, Steelers 13. Final. Eagles looked good on offense in a solid balance. Kellen Moore called the right plays and called it a fantastic game against the Steelers defense. Jalen Hurts, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, and 25 for 32. Saquon Barkley, 65 yards, 19 carries. Jalen Hurts had a touchdown, 45 yards, and 15 carries on the ground. Kenneth Gainwell, 20 yards, 7 receptions, and passing the ball. A.J. Brown went off. There was the rumors about A.J. Brown and everything going off there. A.J. Brown, 110 yards, 8 receptions, a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 11 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. The 2 star receivers went off for this team passing. Kenneth Gainwell, 40 yards, 3 receptions. Calistera, 22-yard reception. And Barkley had 9 yards, 2 carries. The defense played lights out against this Steelers offense. The defense was very physical, and that's another positive circle moment. So, Nakobe Dean had 10 total tackles. Zach Bond had 5 total tackles. Nolan Smith Jr. had 4 total tackles and a sack. Blankenship had 3 total tackles. Josh Sweat had 2 total tackles and a sack. They got to Russell Wilson 2 times, which was good, and the defense played really, really physical in this ball game. So, in all facets of the ball, the Eagles played good, and those are the positive circle moments. A balanced attack on offense, and the defense playing very, very physical in this ball game. So, good on the Philadelphia Eagles for the positive circle moments. Let's talk about some more positive circle moments for the Philadelphia Eagles. 401 total yards compared to the Steelers, 163. If you look at all yardage and all stats on paper, the Eagles dominated this game. 401 compared to their 163. Passing yards, 270 compared to their 107. 131 rushing yards compared to the Steelers' 56. And yards per play, Eagles 5.2 compared to the Steelers' 4 yards per play. Third down efficiency, 10 for 17, 100% on fourth down. And that's pretty much it. They also had time of possession for 39 minutes and 52 seconds compared to their 20 minutes and 8 seconds. Let's just say this. Those are the positive circle moments. Some of the negative circle moments would include, 3 sacks. They got to clean that up. Block better for Jalen Hurts. They sacked Jalen Hurts 3 times. 7 penalties for 54 yards, and then the 2 turnovers there. Protect the ball better and be better disciplined in these games because it's going to come a long way, especially as you enter the NFC playoffs. So those are the negative circle moments. The Eagles in general dominated the game wholeheartedly. Not just on paper. Yes, I did see it. Excuse me. Let me see. There we go. I did see. Just on paper, the whole game. They dominated the whole game in all aspects of the game. The Eagles are the better team, and they were the better team this Sunday. The Eagles are a team that are solidly competing for the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. It's a tie right now between the Lions and the Eagles. The Eagles are still number 2, and the Lions are still number 1. And it's one of those games. They're one of those teams that if you challenge them the right way, they have a perfect balanced offense, and they keep that balance on offense. They play well on defense like they have been. This is a Super Bowl champion team. This is a team that can go to New Orleans. This is a team that can go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl with Nick Sirianni and company. Fly, Eagles, fly, right? Well, the Eagles are flying. They are doing well. They are a team to watch out for. They are a threat to anybody they play. And it doesn't help that you've got a perfectly balanced offense with passing and on the running attack. That's what we wanted. The Eagles weren't passing the ball enough. They needed to pass the ball enough, and they did, and they proved that they could. So now you're thinking, they can pass the ball, actually. If they provide that balance with the run and the pass, who's going to stop them? Really, who's going to stop them? It's going to be hard to stop them. The Eagles are a team worth monitoring. They're a team that you must not take lightly, obviously. You're going to have to pay attention to. Show them respect. Do not underestimate anybody, but prepare big time for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a team that can win it all. And I'm not joking when I say that. they're in the conversation, especially after Sunday, that can win it all. Of course, they're going to win the NFC East, in my opinion. I think they're going to win the East. I think in a lot of ways they're going to win the East. The record shows it. I think they're going to clinch it regardless of this if they lose Sunday. I really do. I think they're going to clinch it. I think they're too many games ahead, and the Eagles have dominated right now. So who do the Eagles have this Sunday? Well, Joel, they have the Commanders. Eagles at Commanders Sunday, 1 Eastern, noon Central. 1 Eastern, noon Central. They have the Commanders in Washington. It's going to be great. 3 days before Christmas, the Eagles at Commanders in an NFC East, East rematch. NFC East rematch. Last time they played was on Thursday Night Football. I covered that game, so I'm going to cover the rematch because I think it's an interesting football game. Final score of this game, 27-13. The Eagles defeat and pretty much handle the Steelers in this ball game. Eagles got the Commanders. Let's see what they do there, and we're going to talk about it here in the game, in the preview and predictions before we conclude the episode. Let's talk about the Steelers in this one. The Steelers couldn't find a way to stop them, and I think that was a pretty big thing there. Through the pass, through the run, they could not find a way to slow them down and stop them. Russell Wilson, 14 for 22, 128 yards and a touchdown. I think Russell Wilson was a positive circle moment in this game because I think he showed some promise. I think he showed some promise in the sense of it's a positive circle moment, and he kept capitalizing, he kept fighting, and he kept finding ways to convert. Even though the Eagles would eventually stop him, he found ways to keep going, and I really like that about Russell Wilson. He just keeps fighting. The running game was a little bit of a, Najee Harris, 6 carries, 14 yards. Russell Wilson had 13 yards and 4 carries. He showed that he could still run, Russell Wilson, at 36 years old. Who knew? Jalen Warren, 4 carries, 12 yards. Calvin Austin had 65 yards, 5 receptions. Pat Freiermuth had a touchdown, 22 yards and 3 receptions, and George Pickens was out with a hamstring injury. They did really, really good on defense. They sacked Jalen Hurts 3 times. Patrick Queen was a huge nightmare in this game. TJ Watt had 2 sacks. The defense played really, really physical, and they showed that they are a physical team on defense. I think that's the best positive circle moment for the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday was the defense and Russell Wilson. I think this defense is a threat in the AFC playoff. I think this is a deep team that can make a good run in the playoffs. They could probably make it past the first round and go to the divisional and make it and be in that. I would not be surprised if the Steelers are in it that deep. I think the negative circle moments rely on rushing, 56 yards rushing. They got to run the ball tremendously and a lot better and effectively and provide a perfect balance so they can win, so they can win and crush some of the competition in some of these games on the rest of their schedule. 3 for 10 on third down was rough, but I know that Russell Wilson could convert on third down a lot better than that. 3 for 10 was not a good negative circle moment in this ball game. They could not do well on third down in this football game. I think that 2 sacks allowed, 1 turnover, 5 penalties for 60 yards are the other negative circle moments in this. These are some stats where it's just some mental errors that need to be fixed and need to be better, right? Those are things that you can just correct over the weekend as you prepare for Baltimore this Saturday in a quick turnaround and see if you can go on the road again and have those things corrected and be ready for this AFC North game. I think right now that the Steelers can be fine. They can correct it. They were just playing a better football team. I think that's what it is. I think the Steelers were playing a better football team. I think their defense is what kept them in it the majority of the time until the offense and the passing attack just could not be contained anymore, and the Eagles just broke away and broke through. And I think that was the huge issue and the huge problem in this game for the Steelers. I think they just got tired on defense. They kind of got gassed, and they just couldn't find any more answers to stop them, and the Eagles won the ball game outright. That's all it is. I think the Steelers are a football team that need to be worried still, that they don't need to be underestimated still. They need to worry about the Steelers still. I still think they have a shot at making a good impression in the AFC playoff. Coming up Saturday, they have the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens at 4:30 Eastern, 3 4:30 Central on Fox. So on Fox, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central on Fox. Steelers at Ravens, a special Saturday afternoon game, and we are going to talk about it and cover it for Pigskin Frenzy. So we're going to talk about that game as well. AFC North matchup, we already did it the first time. I'm curious to see how it's going to go this time. So Steelers at Ravens Saturday. Final score, Eagles 27, Steelers 13. They played a good game. Let's see how the Eagles are going to play against the Commanders in an NFC East matchup. And let's see how the Steelers bounce back in the AFC North rematch against the Baltimore Ravens Saturday afternoon. Bills at Lions, the final game for the Week 15 recap. Bills at Lions. Let's talk about it and discuss it. The last game I got wrong before we go on to the injury report and the preview and predictions for Pigskin Frenzy on this episode. So, it seems to me that I finally got a Lions game wrong. I put the Lions nonstop on everything, and it looks like I got one wrong. The final score of this game was Bills 48, Lions 42. Bills 48, Lions 42 in Ford Field in Detroit. Josh Allen is an absolute menace to society. This man is on a different level than everyone else. It's not close. This man is out here doing basketball chest passes for touchdowns. If it wasn't called back for holding, it would have been a touchdown to Dawson Knox. This man's doing touch passes. This man's doing flips and passes to himself. This man's trucking people like a freight train. He's galloping like a deer into the end zone. This man is, if there was listen, there's a Heisman in NFL football, and it's called the MVP, most valuable player, and guess what? He's it, okay? He is it. He is the MVP this season, bar none. I don't care if they lose and don't win at all. I think he's the MVP this season. He's playing like it. He's playing like he's on a different planet. Like his mind is, and you can tell in his eyes that he's locked in. Like he's focused, and he is definitely focused. Josh Allen, positive circle in this game once again. 23. Let me just tell you the stats. Don't worry. 23 for 34, 362 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had 11 carries, 68 yards with 6.2 yards per rush, and 2 touchdowns. This man had over 400 plus yards total and 4 total touchdowns against the Lions. This man is a menace on the football field. How can you stop Josh Allen? That's the question that a lot of people are going to be asking coming up in the AFC playoffs. They have already won the AFC East. They are for sure in the AFC playoffs. They are a dangerous team. And with Josh Allen playing like that, they are a dangerous team. James Cook had 105 yards, 14 carries, 2 touchdowns, 7.2 yards per rush. Ty Johnson, 114 yards, 5 receptions. Keon Coleman had 1 big 64-yard reception. Dalton Kincaid, 53 yards, 4 receptions. Dawson Knox, 42 yards, 2 receptions. Khalil Shakir had 1 touchdown, 39 yards, 6 receptions. And Ray Davis had 14 yards, 2 receptions, and a touchdown. Defensively, they played well. I mean, Taron Johnson, 8 total tackles. Christian Benford had 6 total tackles and a sack. Elam had 6 total tackles. Tyrell Bernard had 10 total tackles. Lewis had 6 total tackles. Bishop had 5 total tackles. They got to Jared Goff in this game 3 times. 3 sacks in this ball game. 3 sacks. And they were very physical on defense in this ball game. They got 3 sacks, and they got a little bit more stops in this one. I think the Lions shot themselves in the foot in a lot of areas in this game, but we're going to talk about it when we talk about the Lions. This game on paper was absolutely insane. Insane. 559 total yards compared to the Lions' 521. That's 1,000, I would think, if I can, calculate this. That is 1,080 yards of total yards in the game. 1,080 total yards in this ball game combined. This game was insane of offense. 362 passing compared to the Lions 473, and then rushing 197 compared to their 48. 8.2 yards per play for the Bills compared to the Lions 6.8. 5 for 10, 50% on third down, 100% on fourth down efficiency. The only blemish they really had was penalties, 6 penalties for 49 yards. They got to clean that up. But other than that, they did good at time of possession, and they did good protecting the football because they didn't have a single turnover. Josh Allen is a madman. He's a menace, and he played like it. The Bills, they didn't have an answer. The Lions did not have an answer for Josh Allen, and he destroyed the Bills in this game. Josh Allen was moving the ball on them this whole game, along with James Cook and the rest of the Bills' offense. They're cooking, and they got to be taken seriously. They have to be taken seriously. Like, it's a warning right now, but when you play them and you don't heed the warning, don't say I didn't tell you so, because the Bills are for real, and they look like they are different. Now, who knows? The playoffs may happen, and it may be the same result. They play the Chiefs again. They get knocked out by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs again. Who knows? But if Josh Allen keeps playing like this, playoffs or not, I don't really know who's going to beat him. I don't think I've seen Josh Allen play like this ever in his career in the NFL, and I've seen him have games like this, but the past few weeks and the past month and a half, 2 months, it's been consistent. It's been consistently, he's just going on another level, and he's on another planet right now. Ever since that Ravens loss, he's just been on a different level. And he's been on a different level. Did they lose? Did they lose to the Rams? They sure did. But he played well in that game. Josh Allen is leading this team to an AFC playoff. He could win the MVP, and this is a dangerous football team with him under the helm. Defensively, they played a lot better. Now, there's still some questions about their defense. I understand that, especially when it comes to defending the pass. I understand that, especially also usually on the run. On the run, they played well and played better. They got to play better pass defense-wise. They got to play a lot better. But defensively, they played a lot better, and they can be in sync more on defense. This is a team that you're going to have to watch out for come playoff time. Bills coming up Sunday have the Patriots in an AFC East divisional matchup. Patriots at Bills, 4:25 Eastern, 3:25 Central. Pats at Bills this Sunday. I think the Bills are going to walk away with a win here, but that's just me. Bills have a solid game against the Patriots, an AFC East divisional game against the Patriots. Let's see how they do there. 48-42 was the final score. Let's talk about the Lions before we move on here. The Lions is a mix of bad decision-making and bad luck. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Let's go to the positive circle moments, and let's go to the negative circle moments for this team. And then we'll talk about the game itself. Jared Goff is a top 5 quarterback in this league. I've already said that he was, and I'm going to keep saying it until somebody hears me. Because, and I know y'all are hearing me out there, the 4,300 listeners listening to this show. Thank you so much. But everybody else needs to hear this. 5 touchdowns, 494 yards, 38 for 59 completion attempts. This man is an absolute madman when it comes to passing the football. Gibbs had 31 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, 8 carries. Jared Goff, 13 yards on the ground. Montgomery only had 4 yards, 5 carries. Montgomery's hurt, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 193 yards and a touchdown, 14 receptions. Sam Laporta had 111 yards, 7 receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, 63 yards, a touchdown. Jameson Williams, 37 yards, 3 receptions and a touchdown. Tim Patrick, 30 yards, 4 receptions and a touchdown. And then Dan Skipper, offensive lineman Dan Skipper, had a trick play touchdown, 9-yard touchdown for Dan Skipper there. Montgomery had 31 yards, 4 receptions on the ground there. So, defense played well. Brian Branch, 14 total tackles. Jack Campbell had 10 total tackles. Kirby Joseph had 8 total tackles. Turner had 4 total tackles. They didn't sack Josh Allen, but they did pressure him a little bit. So defensively, positive circle moment. They played well. Jared Goff, positive circle moment for this team, played well through the pass. Their passing was absolutely, memorizing in this ball game. So, in that, let's talk about their negative circle moments before we move on. Positive circle moment here. 6 for 13. Third down efficiency, and they were 100% on fourth down. So those are pretty good there. Other than those two things, and passing yards, they couldn't run the ball a whole lot. 48 yards total rushing. They had one huge turnover and 5 penalties for 41 yards. I think those were some negative circle moments, but the negative circle moments was bad decision making, and let's talk about that. The call that I did not agree with was fourth quarter, 12 minutes in the game, and you're going for an onside kick. You stopped Josh Allen a couple of times in this ball game. Maybe you could stop him again and make it harder for him to go down the field. But instead, not only did the Bills recover the onside kick, they march all the way down and return it for a 1st and goal, and then first play, Josh Allen scores a touchdown to put him up some more. So that's a bad decision-making on that part by Dan Campbell. I think that, listen, it reminded me of the NFC Championship game last season against the Niners. Not good decision-making, and you got to be better at that. You have to be. If you don't, you're going to lose games that you're not supposed to lose, especially in the NFC playoffs. I'm worried about that decision-making coming back to costing them. They got to be better at making decisions like that and timing everything better. If you're in a losing situation but it's a close game and it's late in the game, I understand you going for an onside kick. But you're going for an onside 12 minutes in the fourth quarter where you can still come back and win the game, and you're giving it to the hands of a guy that has been hard to stop on his own goal line, or on y'all's own goal line, and first play they get a touchdown, you're going to lose the ball game. It's not going to work out. They did try to get the onside kick late with 12 seconds left in the game. It ended up going to the Bills because the Bills ended up coming with it, and it ended up just being some bad decisions there by the Lions. It came back to bite them. I really do think so. Some bad decisions. Then injuries. Injuries are starting to plague this team tremendously, and we're going to talk about the injury report here in a little bit. Aiden Hutchinson's out. You got guys on defense out. You got guys on offense who are starting to get hurt and be out. And I hope it doesn't start costing this team, because what this team has this season is something special. Do they have depth? I think they do have depth to, and they're already in the playoffs, so they already got a playoff spot. But I think they have depth to try to win it all. Aiden Hutchinson has been reported to, if they do make a long run, for him to come back and play in the Super Bowl game, which will be huge for the defensive line and for Aiden Hutchinson to return for the final game if they play in the Super Bowl and if they make it that far. But injuries are starting to be a concern for me for this team, and I think that's what needs to be something to be talked about for the Detroit Lions. I think the health concerns and the decision makings beating themselves and becoming their own worst enemy at the end of the day is starting to be a concern for me for the Detroit Lions. I think they're the fantastic football team, probably still the best in the NFL, hands down. I do think so. I think hands down, with all the talent and with all the talent that they got, and if they are perfectly healthy, I think the Lions are the best team in the National Football League, bar none, hands down. I'm not backtracking on that statement from last week at all. But what I will say is this: injuries are starting to concern me, and I think if they can figure out a way to get some guys in and get some more depth in, and hopefully they can make a good run, that would be good. But the injuries are starting to become a big concern. I think being physical but toning down on the physicality could be something that y'all need to consider maybe. So final score of this game, 48-42, Bills defeats the Lions. The Lions this Sunday have the Bears. Lions at Bears, 1 Eastern, noon Central in Chicago, Wrigley Field. Lions at Bears in an NFC North rematch from Thanksgiving there. So let's see who wins that one. We'll see who wins the Bills and the Patriots. That was the Week 15 recap for all the games that I covered. Let's talk about the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report, and then we will do the preview predictions for Week 16 for Pigskin Frenzy and the games that we are covering. So, pretty significant injury list. It really is a pretty significant injury list. I think that it's something that needs to be monitored for sure. Let's kick it off with Dolphins wide receiver Grant DuBose. Grant DuBose has movement in all extremities after that dangerous hit versus the Texans last weekend. He has returned home and has been placed on IR and will miss the rest of the regular season. So he's not hospitalized anymore. He has movement. Thankfully, I've been praying about that, and people here at Pigskin Frenzy have been praying that he gets better and continues to get better as he recovers from this injury and hit. It was a dangerous hit, and hopefully he heals quite quickly. And the hit on the Texans was not good. It was not safe. It wasn't good, and hopefully Grant DuBose is good and makes a speedy recovery soon. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad that he's moving, and I'm glad that he's returned home to rest and recover from that hit. So he has returned home, and he is back, and he will be start his road to recovery and being healthy again after that hit. So that was the Dolphins wide receiver Grant DuBose. So an update on him. There's also, Lions running back David Montgomery, and this is a big one because these are 3 Lions injuries. Lions running back David Montgomery tore his MCL and is out for the rest of the season. So you lose a huge part of your offense if you're the Detroit Lions, a huge part. Sonic and Knuckles is losing. You're losing half of that. So he's out. He is out. Sonic, Jahmyr Gibbs, Knuckles, David Montgomery. You lose Knuckles, so you just got Sonic there. David Montgomery is out for the rest of the season with a torn MCL. Huge loss for them. Our thoughts and prayers are with David Montgomery. We're going to pray for him that he makes a speedy recovery and that the Lord's with him and that everything is going to be okay there. But it is tough for the Detroit Lions offense, especially for their defense. Lions defensive tackle Aleem McNeil tore his ACL. He is out for the rest of the season. Tough break there for them. Thoughts and prayers are with Aleem McNeil, and hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and is good for for next season and makes a speedy recovery, and that the Lord's with him in his knee recovery and injury recovery. Lions defensive back Carlton Davis III broke and fractured his jaw and is out indefinitely. Probably could be for the remainder of the season. We don't know, but he is out indefinitely with a fractured jaw. Thoughts and prayers are with Carlton Davis. Hopefully he heals quite nicely, and the Lord is with him and heals him quickly, and he gets back on the field sooner rather than later. Tough break for this Lions team. 3 key players are hurt and could have suffered season-ending injuries, or 2 of them did suffer season-ending injuries, and 1 is a possibility that he suffered a season-ending injury in that Bills game. So thoughts and prayers are with all 3 of those players, and hopefully they heal and the Lord is with them and they make speedy recoveries for next year. So, Cowboys defensive back Trayvon Diggs is out for the rest of the season after suffering a knee injury and getting knee surgery on that knee. He is done for the rest of the year. Tough when he came back from that torn ACL a couple of months back. Thoughts and prayers are with Trayvon Diggs. Hopefully he heals quite nicely and he is ready to go by 2025 in the opener of 2025. So thoughts and prayers are with Trayvon Diggs, and he is ready to go for 2025. We are praying for him. Browns running back Nick Chubb has broken his foot, and he is out for the rest of the season. And this is the one that breaks my heart because he is a heartfelt guy. He is passionate about the game of football. He loves playing for the Cleveland Browns. It is a tough break for Nick Chubb. He runs with heart and passion, and he just got back from that devastating knee injury. So tough break and another setback for Nick Chubb. Thoughts and prayers are with him. Hopefully he heals quite nicely and the Lord is with him in this one. It is a tough break for Nick Chubb in this game. So tough break for Nick Chubb. Hopefully he heals quite nicely. 2 more injuries on the injury report, then we will conclude. Seahawks are optimistic about quarterback Geno Smith with his knee injury. Hopefully he plays this weekend. So thoughts and prayers are with Geno Smith. Hopefully his knee heals quite nicely. That's some good news to report. We are still praying that he makes a speedy recovery and gets back on the field sooner rather than later. Hopefully it's not too serious where he will miss any football games. Last but not least, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, because this is an interesting one, has suffered a high ankle sprain during that game against the Cleveland Browns last week. Was initially considered week to week, but is expected to play Saturday afternoon against the Texans. He will play Saturday against the Texans at home in Arrowhead and will play through the high ankle sprain. He says it is not worse than the injury he suffered in the 2022-2023 playoffs that year, a couple of seasons ago, when he had that high ankle sprain then. So he says it's not as bad as that. He's going to play through it and will play against the Texans this Saturday. Something to keep an eye on still, regardless of that ankle. So those are the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report. Thoughts and prayers with everybody on this list, and hopefully everybody heals quite nicely and is ready to go for sooner or beyond. That was the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report. Let's now talk about and let's conclude with our Week 16 preview and predictions, the games that we are covering this week here on Pigskin Frenzy for NFL, starting with tonight. Broncos at Chargers. Broncos are 9-5. Chargers are 8-6. The Broncos are looking to continue their momentum. They're on a huge winning streak, and they are a quietly dangerous team in the AFC playoffs right now. So they could win 10 games and go to the playoffs and sneak into that 7th seed in the AFC West playoff and the AFC playoffs. The Chargers are still looking to be in the hunt. They're still looking to get back on track after losing a heartbreaking game to the Buccaneers at home. Thursday Night Football, 8:15, 7:15 Central on Amazon Prime. Thursday Night Football tonight with Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels on the call. Broncos keys are pretty simple. Number one, get to Justin Herbert. Denver currently is number 1 in sacks in the National Football League. Los Angeles allowed 3 sacks versus the Buccaneers last week. So, if you're looking at that, if you're the number 1 team in sacks on defense, on the defensive line, and if you're looking at the Chargers getting sacked, or Herbert getting sacked 3 times with the Bucs, you're thinking if you're the Broncos right now, oh man, I can do more and add more damage to it. So get to Justin Herbert, put pressure on him, and get those sacks in, and you should be fine in this ball game. Number 2, force turnovers. The Chargers had 2 turnovers versus the Bucs. So if you can force turnovers and cause a little bit of chaos in that department on defense and play some good defense, you should be fine in this ball game. And number 3, this is for the Broncos too. Protect the ball. 3 turnovers versus the Colts. That's not the best. Protect the ball. Play better and keeping the ball and playing clean football in that regard, and you should be fine. 3 turnovers is not going to be good against a Chargers defense like this. I still think they're still a formidable opponent in the AFC West for the Broncos. So protect the ball, and everything should be fine tonight in this game. Chargers keys are pretty simple. Number 1, protect Justin Herbert. Watch out for this team. They are dangerous on the defensive line, one of the best lines in the league. Obviously, they lead the league in sacks. Protect Justin Herbert and minimize the sacks if you can. So number 1, protect Justin Herbert in this game. Number 2, you got to force some turnovers. I think if you force turnovers and if they turn the ball over and you capitalize off those turnovers, you have a shot at winning this game and going to 9-6, with the Broncos going to 9-6. So force those turnovers. And number 3, you have to win on 3rd down and capitalize on that. Not 0 for 6 on 3rd down versus the Buccaneers. That is not good on 3rd down. You have to be better at that. Capitalize on those drives and score on those 3rd down conversions. I think it's a must in this ball game, especially tonight. It's a critical game, and you have to be better at it. That's number 3 for the Chargers. The questions that I got are, can they protect Justin Herbert? That's the Chargers. And for the Broncos, can they protect the football? Those are my 2 biggest questions for both teams tonight in this ball game. Who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be close. It's not going to be a blowout by no means. I think that the Broncos' defensive line is too dangerous right now. I think they're going to get to Justin Herbert. I think that they are going to cause some chaos in that department, win the line of scrimmage battle, and I think the Broncos are going to come away with a win here on the road against the Chargers. I think the Broncos are doing quietly good right now. They are playing good defensively, and I think Bo Nix is on a run right now where he is hard to be denied in his rookie season. So give me the Broncos winning the game. I think the Broncos win it 24-17. Broncos 24, Chargers 17. The Broncos defeat the Chargers in SoFi tonight and move along in the AFC West in playoff picture. Broncos defeat the Chargers. Next up, Steelers at Ravens. AFC North game rematch on Saturday, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central on Fox. Steelers at Ravens. Steelers are 10-4. Ravens are 9-5. The last time these two teams played, because we covered this game, Steelers defeated the Ravens 18-16 in Week 11 on November 17th. So we did that one. And the Steelers didn't score a single touchdown. They didn't score a single touchdown in this ball game. Can they do it this time? The Ravens are looking to continue their momentum after coming back from a bye week and defeating the Giants last week in dominating fashion. So let's see what they can do here in this one. Steelers' keys are pretty simple. They're looking to bounce back from that Eagles loss. Steelers are pretty simple in these keys. Number one, win on third down. 3 for 10 on third down versus the Eagles. You're going to want to do better than that and capitalize on those third downs against this team in Baltimore. If you want to win this game and potentially win the AFC North, you have to win and convert on your third downs. I think it's important. It's probably the biggest key for this game for the Steelers right now is to win on third down. Number two, slow down their running game. Baltimore is currently second in rushing offense still in the league. Pittsburgh is still currently fourth in rushing defense in the league. So you can still stop the run, and you did really good at containing the run last game y'all played, and you won. So play some good defense, slow their running game down. Don't let them start off too hot on that. And you should be fine in this ball game, and it could be just like it was the first time you played. So just stop the run, slow down the run, and you should be fine. Number three, you have to minimize the penalties. 5 penalties for 60 yards versus the Eagles. Not good. You cannot do this against the Ravens. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you drives. I call those drive killers, and they are drive killers. And eventually, if you get high up in the penalties, they're game killers, and it's going to cost you the ball game. Do not commit as many penalties and many yardage of penalties, and clean that up and be more disciplined, and you should be fine in this ball game. Here are the Ravens' keys. Number one, minimize the penalties. 12 penalties for 112 yards versus the Giants. To me, this key is like beating a dead horse, and I keep saying it over and over that they got to do this because they are probably the most penalized team in the National Football League. They have to quit with these penalties. But so far, it's not working. But you need to not do that against the Steelers in this game because you will lose Saturday if you do this. Clean it up, be more disciplined, and you will be fine in this ball game. Number two, slow down their running game. Baltimore is currently first in rushing defense in the league. They're currently first in stopping the run and rushing defense in the league. Pittsburgh is currently 10th in rushing offense in the league. So they're a top 10 running team in this league. They didn't run the ball well against the Eagles. And I would keep it that way. Slow them down on the ground and make them one-dimensional on offense and come away with a win in that regard as well. And number three, start off fast. You have to start off fast like you did against the Giants, and that's how you can come away with a win in this ball game at home Saturday afternoon. I would start off fast and get going fast. Who do I got winning this ball game? Well, before I say that, let's go with the two questions. Question do I have for the Ravens? Can they minimize those penalties? Can they be more disciplined and not commit as much penalties? That's for the Ravens. And number two, for the Steelers, can they find some sort of balance on offense and running the football? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Can they run the ball a lot better than they did against the Eagles against this team? Now, who do I have winning this ball game? I think this game's going to be close. I think it's going to be down to the wire. I think that the defense for the Ravens are going to play as well as they did the first time around. However, I think the Steelers are going to find a way to win this ball game. I think they're going to play solid defense, and they're going to finally score a touchdown. I like the Steelers in this one on the road, and the Steelers to defeat the Ravens in this one. The Steelers beat the Ravens in Baltimore by a score of 17-14. Steelers 17, Ravens 14. I think the Steelers win this ball game. And I think they get it done in a close game. 17-14, Steelers 17, Ravens 14, and the Steelers go to 11-4. The Ravens go to 9-6. So Steelers get the win and potentially could win the AFC North. Eagles at Commanders. Eagles 12-2 at Commanders, who were 9-5. NFC East rematch. Eagles defeated the Commanders 26-18 in Week 11 on Thursday Night Football, November 14th. It is happening Sunday, 1 Eastern, noon Central, the rematch in the NFC East. We're covering it again. Going to be an exciting game. Commanders are on a roll right now. The Eagles are also on a roll. Something's got to give here. Let's see if the Commanders can get a win, and an impressive win against the Eagles, and slow down the Eagles' momentum before the NFC playoffs. The Eagles' keys are pretty simple. Number one, protect the football. 2 turnovers versus the Steelers. I think if you can do that and not turn the ball over, so you can put it in Jaden Daniels' hands, as you know how dynamic he has been. If you can do that, you could be fine in this ball game. So just protect the ball. You should be fine if you just do that. Number 2, win on third down and keep doing what you've been doing on third down. 10 for 17 on third down versus the Steelers. If you keep doing that and capitalizing on your drives, this should be a good day in the office for Philadelphia here in Washington. So win on third down, 10 for 17. Put up those kind of the exact same kind of numbers on third down if you can against the Commanders this Sunday. That's a huge key for the Eagles in this one. And number 3, keep up that balance on offense. If you can keep up that balance with passing the ball and a balance of running the ball, it's going to be kind of hard to stop. It really is. Just keep up that balance, and you should be fine this Sunday in this ball game. The Commanders' keys are pretty simple. Number 1, figure out a way to get the ball and force turnovers. Force turnovers defensively, and then capitalize off those turnovers with Jaden Daniels on offense. If you can figure out a way to do that, you should be fine in this ball game. So just find a way to turn the ball over and do that, because you didn't do it in the other game, in the first game y'all played. Do that and see if you can do that. Number 2, Jaden Daniels has to have a breakout game. I think Jaden Daniels is the key in this one. If Daniels can have a breakout game, running the ball, throwing the ball, and playing lights out, then it can be hard to be denied, and the Commanders can sneak off an upset win over the Eagles in this one. And number 3, you got to minimize the penalties. 9 penalties for 84 yards versus the Saints last week. So you have to clean that up, because you're playing a strong team that will capitalize on you guys hurting yourselves with penalties like that. So if you could just, minimize it, tone it down, you should be good in this ball game. The 2 questions I got. Number 1 for the Commanders. Can Jaden Daniels have a breakout game, and can they really contain what the Eagles are doing on offense? That's the 2 questions I got for the Commanders. I think the 2 questions for the Eagles that I got are protecting the ball. That's 1. But also, can they really keep up that balance on offense? I think if they can keep up that balance, they can win this ball game. So if they can keep up that balance, everything's good. But are they going to do that? That's my real big question about it. Are they going to pass the ball just as well as they can run the ball? Can Kellen Moore keep up that game plan that he put together against the Steelers? Can they do that? Big questions that I got for both teams. Who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game will be close up until the fourth quarter. I think that the Commanders are a good team. However, I do not think that they're better than the Eagles right now. I think the Eagles are still a leg up. I like the Eagles pulling away in the fourth quarter to win this ball game by a score of 31-21. Eagles 31, Commanders 21. I think the Eagles win by 10, and the Eagles pull away late in the fourth quarter, and the Eagles potentially win the NFC East and get a leg up on the Commanders in the playoffs in general. So Eagles defeat the Commanders again, sweep the series. The Eagles 31, Commanders 21, and the Eagles win Sunday. Moving on. Last but not least, 49ers at Dolphins. 4:25 Eastern, 3:25 Central, Sunday afternoon. 49ers at Dolphins in Miami. Both teams are 6-8. Both teams are 49ers coming off of a huge loss to the Rams. Dolphins are coming off of a huge loss to the Texans. Something's got to give. Both teams are kind of trying to save their seasons too. So who can keep up who can bounce back, get some momentum, and try to fight for their season in this one? This is a hard game to predict. And I was going back and forth with it before I got on. And I got my pick now, but it's still hard to predict all this stuff, right? So The 49ers keys are simple in this one, I think. Win on third down. If you can capitalize off those third down conversions, then you should be fine in this one. You should be fine. Win on third down. 3 for 12 on third downs versus the Rams. Not good. Not good in this one. If you can do that, you should be fine in this ball game, though. If you can capitalize off those third downs and convert, you're good. Number 2, you got to force those turnovers. Miami had 4 turnovers versus the Texans last week. If you can find a way to turn the ball over and get those turnovers and capitalize off that, you can be solid in this ball game. And number 3, Brock Purdy's got to have a breakout game in this one. I think this is the game that Brock Purdy needs to light it up in to save their season. I think their backs are against the wall in this game. I think that they need to figure out a way to find out a way to win the game, and whether that's Brock Purdy using his legs, lighting it up through the air. He's got to have a breakout game and a perfectly balanced game to win against this Dolphins team. So he's got to have a breakout game in this one. This is a need. I think this is the biggest key in this one. Is Brock Purdy has to have a breakout game. Those are the 49ers keys. Let's talk about the Dolphins keys and then the questions and then who I have winning. Number 1 for the Dolphins, you got to minimize those penalties. 8 penalties for 64 yards versus the Texans. 8 penalties for 64 yards versus the Texans. That's a lot. That's a lot of penalties for that many yards. So you have to just clean that up. Be more disciplined and minimize on that. Number 2, protect the football. 4 turnovers with the Texans. That's not going to fly in this game either. You've got to protect the football. I think that's huge. I think that's what cost you the game last time, and it was a game killer, and it can turn into another game killer in this one. So protect the ball, and you should be good. Number 3, establish the running game. I think Miami is currently 26th in rushing offense in the league. The 49ers are currently 15th in rushing defense in the league. If you can do that, because the Niners are 15th, they're top 15 in stopping the run. If you can figure out a way to run the ball on them and effectively run the ball on them and outgain them in rushing, you should be good in this game. I think those are some big, big questions in this one. The questions that I got big questions I got for this one are, number 1, for the Niners, can Brock Purdy stand out and put the game on his shoulders? That's number 1. And can they capitalize on third down? I think that's 2 for this one. And that's 2 for the Niners. So and kind of 2, but 2 questions for the Dolphins. Can they establish the perfect run game? And can they clean up their errors by not turning the ball over and playing clean ball in that regard? Can they not shoot themselves in the foot? And can they have a perfectly balanced attack in this game? Because they're going to have to win this ball game. Those are the big questions that I got for the Dolphins and the Niners. Who do I got winning this ball game? I think this game is going to come down to the wire. Both teams are fighting for a spot right now, especially in their respective playoffs. I think that the Niners' injuries are a concern to me. I really do. I think, especially on the ground and on running the ball, I think the Dolphins is a little bit of a concern to me too, with turning the ball over and everything. I really, honestly, am going to have to lean towards the 49ers in this one to take the win against the Dolphins, and I'm going to tell you why. I think the Niners are going to squeak by with a win in this one close. The Niners get the win close. I do not trust the Dolphins one-dimensional right now. I think they're one-dimensional, and I think seeing that is going to be hard for me to pick against them in any game right now, besides probably the last 2. And this one, a little bit of a difference. You're going to have to be a little bit more not one-dimensional in this game. I don't know how they cannot be. Right now, the Niners get the win. I think the Niners win 21-14. 49ers 21, Dolphins 14. 49ers get the win, defeat the Dolphins on the road, and they go to 7-8, and the Dolphins go to 6-9. The 49ers get the win and kind of still are in the hunt to save their season. That is the Week 16 preview predictions for Pigskin Frenzy of all the games that we're covering for the NFL. That just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy, guys. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's NFL question as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, big thank you again. Website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com for more up to date on that soon. Thank you guys so much for just tuning in on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We will be back January 2nd, Thursday, January 2nd, 2025 for our latest NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy. We will be covering all the games on social media until then. And we just keep up to date with all Pigskin_Frenzy on X and Instagram. We may go live there as well. So we're going to cover all those games there. So keep up to date on the socials there at Pigskin_Frenzy on X and Instagram. And just keep up to date with us on that, as we will cover the games while we are in Mississippi. We are going to have a good Christmas, good New Year's, happy holidays, and Merry Christmas for everybody. I'm praying that everybody has a safe, wonderful Christmas and a safe and wonderful New Year's. The Lord has blessed us with family and friends and has blessed us with His platform to do this. So I'm thankful for each and every week to do and cover college football and NFL football as well. So I'm grateful for the Lord. I'm praying that everybody enjoys Christmas and has a great holidays. And I hope that everybody enjoys football coming up this weekend and throughout the holiday season. And until January 2nd, 2025 for our next NFL episode and NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy, episode 186, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then. We're praying for you all. We're going to further His kingdom, and that is the most important thing, is to further God's kingdom. We love you all. Have a great and Merry Christmas and safe New Year's and Happy New Year's. As always, stay the course, and God bless everyone.